Hi, my name is Jean. I'm one of the co-hosts of the Agile at Hinterland Meetup that we had recently on May 31st, 2022, where we invited Joe Justice to share some insights from Agile at Tesla. I'd like to thank our sponsors, which you can see on the site, Ecometer, Miele, Hinterland of Things, and the Agile World podcast for making this possible. And now let's jump right into the video.
Hi, I'm here. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you, Barcamp. Thank you, Hinterland of Things. My deep apologies. It is absolutely my schedule collision, my mistake. But I'm thrilled to be here now, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, no worries at all. I mean, we were just able to prove how agile we actually are by doing the breakout sessions before your talk. So no worries. We are so trained in this, so it's all right. So let me do a real brief introduction. I mean, we talked already a lot about you and what you've done at Wikispeed and so on. So the audience is well informed already. Yeah. And what I find really so inspiring is that in the long run, you know, not only because Elon Musk says, but we all notice that right now, that pace of innovation is really all that matters in the long run, right? So when people would compare Tesla to like Volkswagen or any other company, it doesn't make really sense to compare the cars. It's much more about the ways of working and the pace of innovation that they are able to establish. So that's why I'm so excited that you are also one of the persons who can share the insights, has the experience and the enthusiasm for talking about building the machine that builds the machine, right? So we have a Q&A right here in Mentimeter. Maybe Miriam, you can share the link again.
Yes, I will share the link again.
And yeah, without further ado, Joe, let us know what else we should know about you, and the stage is yours.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jean. Thank you so much, Miriam. Hi, I'm Joe. I worked for Bill Gates. I was actually a Scrum Master for a team that Bill Gates was on. It was while Bill was setting up the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So our projects were like water, sanitation, and hygiene for the world. How can we make a positive contribution for that? And polio, can we increase the polio vaccine rate in India? And maternal, newborn, and child health. When a baby's born anywhere in the world, can we increase the odds it's a healthy baby and a healthy mom? Like, that was our backlog. And I was the Scrum Master for that. After that, which is maybe reverse order, but it's true. After that, I was a developer at Microsoft, working on internal systems for Microsoft. Then after that, I consulted to the leadership teams at Amazon. I did work for Jeff Bezos. And after that, I did operate the Agile program at Tesla for Elon Musk. I've had a super lucky career. In Europe, I've worked with the CEO of Bosch and the entire leadership team at Bosch. So Volkmar Denner as CEO, I directly trained Volkmar Denner for the Agile initiative at Bosch. I've worked with the top at Volkswagen, at Daimler, Mercedes-Benz. Most of the major European, Philips in the Netherlands. Well, it's hard to remember off the top of my head, but some of the larger banks, etc. I've had a super lucky career. Those were all consulting stints. And I've never seen a pace of innovation as quick as what I experienced at Tesla. So as an Agilist, and for people interested in the hinterland of things, I think what's going on in the Musk companies is interesting. And I'd like to share what I've experienced. Now, what I've prepared for us, I'll zoom out, is a 12-step program. And this is totally misnamed. There's no Scrum in here. Sorry, it says Ultimate Scrum. That's completely wrong. There's no Scrum at Tesla. It should say Ultimate Speed. I don't know. This is an open question. Help me name this thing. The Musk method, maybe. I've made a 12-step program to talk to companies like Philips and Daimler and say, here is how you would operate with the DNA like Tesla has, if you really wanted to. Now, this is of course challenging because it's very different and change is always challenging. We have 12 steps here. Each one is an hour. So we won't do all 12. But what I'd like to zoom in on, digital self-management. I'm torn. These are all good and maybe interesting, which has not been shared. Okay, I'll do a short version of digital self-management, and then maybe we'll get to one that I've maybe never talked about anywhere. All the cars test themselves. This is called factory mode. From the moment they're put together, each car puts itself through road legal testing and homologation. This is important because BMW, Ford, Toyota, Lexus, Mercedes-Benz, they all have what's called a minor model change cycle. And on average, it's 2.5 years. It's right around 2.5 years for all those companies. That's when they'll make some changes. They'll change the bumper shape. They'll change the software on the navigation. Then every 5 to 7 years, they have what's called a major model change, where they change most of the parts of the car. They upgrade almost all the car in most cases, every 5 to 7 years. That's waterfall. They allocate that budget 7 years in advance, sometimes 9 years in advance. In the case of Volkswagen, the budget is allocated 9 years in advance.
Ich bin gerade in
Yeah.
Sorry, can everybody mute themselves? Thanks.
Or you can interrupt with a question anytime. I mean, we're going to be open about this, but I will request English. I'm just not as I can speak a tiny bit of Japanese, but I'm really, really bad. So maybe English. So Tesla doesn't do that. Instead, Tesla introduces 60 new parts a day. Now let's put that in context again. BMW, Daimler, Toyota, Lexus, Mitsubishi, Ford, Chrysler, Seat, Fiat, Renault introduce a few new parts every 2.5 years. And then most new parts every 5 to 7 years. Tesla introduces 60 new parts a day. They're essentially doing about a minor model change worth of work, which is a 2.5-year cadence, every day. And there's 2 reasons that this is possible, even possible. One is they also remove 61 parts a day. So the total part count is actually going down. There's now about 8,000 parts on the Model 3, for example, and it continues to reduce. So that's one way it's possible. They manage complexity that way. The other way it's possible is because of what I'm trying to show on the screen right now, factory mode, which is part of digital self-management. Every car is potentially unique, every single car. Every single car might have its own electronics to fire the airbag that no other car has. One car might have a different seat than any other car. One car might have a different metal alloy and glue than any other car. So how can you possibly make sure these things are safe and get permission to drive them on the road, homologate them? That's what you're seeing here. The moment every car is built, it puts itself, it drives itself through every road legal compliance test. And this is what the screen looks like inside the car when it's doing this. It's called factory mode. And the car then uploads itself a 1-page document to the world's government organizations, wherever it's going to be sold, saying, here's how I'm different than the last car. Would you please certify me? And these cars are individually approved for road legal use. What that means is you can introduce a change at any time because that car will be fully tested. Most waterfall companies test in batch. In waterfall, you test at the end. And to make economies of scale, the batch is really big. It's years long. And you don't want any change during that multi-year cycle. Any change would mean you have an unsaleable car. It hasn't been tested. It hasn't been certified. Well, Tesla wants to make changes all the time. They want to be agile, right? Maximize the rate of innovation for the customer. So they have to test every car. Now, this is a huge project. Factory mode is a massive, never-ending software and hardware initiative of sensors, electronics, and software on the cars. But what it means is they can introduce changes multiple times a day. The second part of digital self-management is attempting to replace all managers. And it looks like this. There's monitors that look like, this is a real one. This one's from Berlin. This is from Brandenburg. So right in Germany. There's monitors like this all over the factories, and it's on your phone. And what this tries to do is any question you would have asked a manager, these monitors try to answer for you faster than a manager could. So this monitor is in an area I worked a lot. I worked mostly in California, but we had the same monitor. This monitor is for coatings quality. We use all these huge paint robots, and they're actually mostly made in Germany, by the way. And when you get paint set up right, so the car has a beautiful, lustrous paint job, in most companies, you never change it, you don't touch it. It's working, don't touch it for years. And if something breaks, it's a huge initiative. You shut the plant down, you shut all manufacturing down, you take the paint robots apart, what's going wrong, and it's weeks offline as you rebuild the paint shop if there's a problem. Well, in Tesla, we change painting techniques multiple times an hour every day. So how could you possibly do that? When you make a change with your painting equipment, with your painting chemicals, with the nozzles on the robots, and I don't know if everybody knows, but the paint robots, they actually wear clothes. It's kind of cute. They're like sock puppets. So if you change the sock on the robot to a different kind, it might bump the car or touch the car or shed lint, and you have to pay attention to all of these variables. Well, we're changing those multiple times an hour to make the paint more environmentally friendly, last longer, be more shiny, have more depth of field. Every factor is being driven multiple times an hour, which in most companies that'd be every 3 years or less. Well, here's how we can. What you do if you made a change in paint is you would then have a paint expert examine the car, the product of these paint robots, and they would examine every cubic millimeter. And it takes about a day to have that level of examination of the entire coating of a car. And they actually hold up a mirror and a white sheet, and they go around the car looking at how much is shined from the mirror onto the white sheet at different angles is how that's done. And it's a masterwork. That is a masterwork. It takes many, many years of skill to do that on all the different types of curvatures of a car. Well, what Tesla has in their AI that's really good, I mean, the Tesla AI is not at all ready to take over the world. It's not that awesome. But what it is really good at doing is something called auto labeler. What auto labeler does is it takes video. It used to take pictures. Now it takes video, and actually takes multiple channels of video at once, high def, 4K video, and it labels what it sees. I think that's a person. I think that's a blemish in the paint. I think that's a lane marking. I think that's a cat. I think that's a person riding a bike. I think that's a piece of fabric from one of the paint socks that got embedded in the paint 3 layers down. It's really good at labeling things. That part of Tesla AI is actually really good. It's called auto labeler. What these cars do when they exit paint is they go under an array of cameras and lights. And it takes about 1 second. And the machine learning says, what's there? It auto labels. And what it does is it labels each photon of light, each individual photon of light, its wavelength and magnitude and power, which tells you how much luster, how bright is the paint finish. And what you want is if you shine a light straight down and look straight down, you get really, really bright light. And then if you look here, but the light shining straight down, you get really, really dark light. This is what makes a car look really 3-dimensional. As you move your head, it looks really light, really dark, really light, really dark. That's what you want. Well, Tesla AI can assess the quality of paint at the sub-millimeter level over the entire surface of the car or whatever you're painting in less than a second. So I, as a brand new employee, can walk in and mix new paint, a new chemical mix that we've never used before, and say, I want to try this. And no one's going to tell me no, because it's an agile company. And I can pour it in the paint robots and say, let's try this one. And we can make one of these cars. And the AI will tell me immediately if it was better or worse. Now, if it's worse, I have to revert. So the next car is what we had before, or I have to improve on what I did. I have to keep experimenting or roll back. That's my job because I made the change. If it's better, awesome. I then need to make visible what I did so other groups can copy, because there's not just one paint center. There's not just one production center for any part. There's always more than one. So you can experiment in one in production, and there's always another one still producing the previous version. And if one has a meaningful upgrade, then you make it visible to the other center. Sometimes there's 15 different centers doing 15 different versions, but there's always at least 2. So in Tesla Fremont, California, there's North Paint and South Paint. And I was primarily working in North Paint. And I could and did make radical changes to paint process. And if I messed up one car, fine, super worth it as an investment in innovation. That car would be circled back to be reworked, repainted, or if we had to, scrapped. And that's expensive. I mean, that's thousands of euro. But it's worth it for the relentless pace of innovation. And it made me feel super confident. I could change stuff. And the company's investing in me, which made me want to be careful. It made me want to be fast and ambitious and careful. It made me take me seriously. And everybody's like that. Now, this screen you're seeing here is for paint. It's for coatings. And it's super hard to see, but there's actually a bunch of tiny little circles of different colors that show where there are, most of them imperceptible to the human eye. You'd need a microscope, defects in the paint. So I can see if the last car had, I don't know, I'm going to make up a number because it's totally secret how many there are, but let's say 100 little defects that you'd actually need a microscope to find, but there's 100. And then I make a change. If there's now 90, I know I did a good job. Now, no manager is going to walk down and say, good job, Joe, because there aren't any managers. I mean, there is someone in a manager role for legal reasons, but who's in that role rotates multiple times a day, and it's anyone who completed the training on their phone. So they're a manager for legal reasons. It's not like they have a different salary. It's not like they have different power. So there's effectively no manager. Instead, you use these apps, and they manage you. You're digital self-managing. So in a traditional company, I would ask, may I make a change to the paint production? And probably I'd be told no. And then what I'd want to know, if I ever did make a change anyway, I'd want to know, is it better or worse? Well, that's a question I'd have to wait for an answer. So Tesla has invested in making software to answer that question in less than a second, all the time for every car. Now, every area of the factory has this. So you can design and do new development in the factory at the point of production. And the software is not perfect, but it's really good. And the software replaces a manager. The net effect is nearly 100% of staff is directly working on the product. You don't have managers. You don't have bosses. You have nearly 100% engineers, hardware, software, and everyone physically builds cars, even if you were hired for software. And that's the part I want to show next. It's called the Justice Board. So these boards, there's a version of them all around Tesla, and it's super secret. I've still not seen a picture of one of them posted anywhere, so I can't post a picture. So this is actually a drawing I made that's similar. These boards didn't have any name that I ever heard. They were super important. It's how all the money was used in Tesla. It showed you where all the money was going in real time. I never heard a name for them. I've studied all my journals while I was in Tesla, and I made some updates to how this project ran while I was in Tesla operating the Agile program there. Since leaving, I've actually updated them again. So I actually think what you're seeing here is a little even better than what's in Tesla. And they didn't have a name, so I named it after myself. These are the Justice Board. So here's what it is. At the top level, it shows you how much money is in the company bank account. Everybody can see this. This is all over the company and it's on your phone. How much money is left in the company bank account in real time? I mean, you see it go down and go up. Then, how fast is the company spending money? This is called the burn rate. Now, this is how an app company in Silicon Valley runs. This is very normal. It's called real-time accounting, but that's for an app company of 6 or maybe 60 developers making a game for your phone. What's really weird here is Tesla uses the same accounting for 110,000 employees making life-critical systems and with 500,000 suppliers. It's awesome. There are no budgets. Instead, there's no budget at all. It's absolutely beyond budgeting. There's hashtag no budgets. Instead, you see how much money is left and how fast it's being spent. And what you're told is, are we spending enough? Can you spend money faster? And are we spending it efficiently? So everybody can see this. Then you see, what is the company spending money on? And these are rows on the Justice Board. And on your phone, you can propose a new row for the Justice Board at any time. You can say, I vote to spend money on a different paint robot. And if that proposal looks like it will be a more efficient spend of money, it is automatically approved. I mean, there really is no approval. It's just, it moves up the board. So you can see, oh, that's better than the average spend the company is doing now. So that must be a good idea. My idea is a good idea. I'll try it. Then every day when you walk in, most companies have an office where design happens. And there's another office where software development happens. And then there's a factory where things are built. In Tesla, there's just the factory. So if you're writing software in Tesla, you're in the factory, sitting on the concrete floor in a ring of other people on laptops or with a big screen. And it's all mob. It is all mob development. There's no alone work. That'd be too slow. And CAD, CAM, procurement, all design is done that way in the factory. The goal is to be within touching distance of the machine that's going to build what you're designing. So you're right there, you're seeing it. And that makes you make designs that are easier to transition to production. They're more likely to work on that production step because you could see it as you were designing in your mob. Okay. Every day when you walk in, you choose where you go. There's no manager telling you go here, right? On your first day, you're invited to a place, so you have a place to show up. But on your second day, you pick where you go. And you can go the same place every day for years, or you can go a different place every 3 hours. It's up to you. It's fine. You use what's called the law of 2 feet. Use your own 2 feet to go wherever you think you could add the most value. So the rows on this Justice Board showing where money's being spent, these are your likely choices. You could propose a new row, but these are where you could walk. So one of these is the autopilot team. You could walk up to the autopilot team and join the mob. And as long as one person in the mob has some skill with programming autopilot, mostly in Python, they will tell you what to do and you'll be the driver. You'll rotate through driver and navigator. And as long as one person in the mob has an idea, even a whole group of new people can do it. These mobs are typically 3, 4, or 5 people. So you have a pretty quick time between turns. And if you do that for a few hours, you get some idea of how to add value to that station. And if you do it for a few months, you might become the best in the company, potentially. So you have the autopilot team. You have Tesla Model Y update in production ramp. I was here a lot. I built a lot. I built thousands of parts for Model Ys and helped design new parts like charge ports, charge electronics, fenders, weather sealants, paint. I spent a lot of time in paint. Paint's actually super complicated, I learned. Okay, anyway, so you can walk up here and be improving the Model Y as it's being manufactured. Here's where I spent. This is an actual row that I drew a real row, Tesla Model 3 paint. I was also here a lot. And let's go up the chain. So the parent metric is how much money is left in the company and is it being spent efficiently? Efficiency has a measure. It's value to the company mission divided by expenses. And the expenses are thought of two ways. Capital expenses, like, are you using a robot all day? Okay, well, what's the cost of you using this robot all day? Are you using 100 robots all day? Okay, what's the cost of using 100 robots all day? Plus operational expense. That's like people's salary. But in any case, it's estimating expense, total expense, value divided by expense. Now, what value is changes depending on the row in this justice board you're on. And that's what I want to try to show. Value to all of Tesla is number of days less for the transition to sustainable energy. So if you think what you did just reduced 1 or more days before everyone's driving an electric car, or all power generation is solar or hydro or wind, that is the value to Tesla as a company. Every row under here is an experiment towards that value. So for Tesla Paint, their experiment, their value formula is deliveries, car deliveries. Now, how fast cars can go through paint determines the delivery rate, and the cars must pass digital self-management. They must meet the definition of done. They must have awesome paint. And that calculation tells you what experience you can run. So you can run an experiment on rate that passes quality and has 0 customer returns. No customers say, I decline to take this car. Maybe some people don't know. Teslas are delivered to you. They come to your home. You don't go to a store to get them. So you order a Tesla through through an app on your phone, and it's brought to you at work, or it's brought to you at home, or it's brought to you at the shopping center, and you get your car. Well, the customer looks the car over, and the customer on their phone can choose decline. I decline this car. When that happens, these monitors all over Tesla turn red. A customer declined a car. Why? And if the customer says paint quality, that goes to everyone in the paint facility. We had a customer decline. Now, this almost never happens, but it can happen. And if it happened, that is a top class problem. Something was so wrong, a customer said, no, thank you. So that's a customer return. It almost never happens, but it could happen. So a KPI is eliminating customer returns or customer declines, meeting digital self-management even faster, and having a higher rate of cars flowing through production. So every day you have a list of experiments. You don't necessarily have a backlog. I drew this like a Scrum board. Sorry, it doesn't look quite like this. You can put a list of experiments, or you can simply work. You don't have to write any post-it notes at all. You can simply work with your team, and you try to improve your experiment. You try to improve your value formula. For the number of people working on this, for the cubic meters of the facility you're using, is the value going up? And that determines the order up and down in this justice board. Highly financially efficient projects are at the top. Low financial efficiency projects are near the bottom. And if you add a new idea and it's at the bottom, that lets you know it's probably not worth doing because it's lower financial efficiency than everything else everyone's doing already. Now you have a trend chart, and these trend charts change depending on what you're trying to do. So this trend chart, these numbers are made up. I drew this one because how many minutes a car spends in paint, for example, is sensitive information. But this is number of minutes from when a car enters North Paint till a car exits. And sometimes it goes up. I mean, you have some experiments that don't work. And sometimes it goes down, and sometimes it stays the same. But you can see the trend as you're experimenting multiple times a day to improve paint. Now, a lot of Agilists come from a software background. So I'll talk about Autopilot for a moment, if you don't mind. Autopilot's original goal was, its original value statement was, can the car drive itself in the factory safely? In the factory. That was step one of autopilot, factory mode. Can the car drive itself? So at first it drove on a test course of a bumpy road, a cobblestone road, and microphones in the car recorded how loud it was. And so that was the first use of autopilot, of factory mode. Then it drove itself into a car cleaner, so it would be cleaned before it exited the factory. Well, then it started adding all the road legal homologation tests and became the factory mode I talked about earlier. Then they said, well, now these cars can navigate the inside of the factory. Can we add any kilometers of road outside the factory where the cars can safely drive? And the first metric was burning up. The trend chart was burning up. How many kilometers on the surface of the earth can these cars navigate or at least stay in the lane? Then how many kilometers on the surface of the earth can the cars stay in the lane and pass a slower car or yield to an emergency vehicle, right? So you have what the car can do and how many now cubic kilometers of the surface of the earth it can happen. The current metric for autopilot is % safer than human. How many kilometers of the surface of the earth is autopilot how much safer than a human driver? And it's measured as %. And on some areas of the earth where the cars have a lot of training data, which is right around California is where there's the most training data, but there's not bad training data all across Germany now and the EU. But in some areas, the cars are now 32 times safer than a human driver. And it's mostly about training data, how many Teslas have driven that area already to get information. So it's mostly about how many Teslas are there and how many kilometers they're being driven. Here's how that's measured. The Teslas, all of them, there's 2 million Teslas on the road now. They send real-time data back to Tesla, the Tesla headquarters, real time. You can see all 2 million Teslas, how fast they're being driven, how many people are in the car, what music they're listening to, what position they're sitting in the seat, where the seat belt is riding on their body, how quick the car is turning. You can't see who owns the car and who's in it. You cannot see that. As an employee, I could not see who was in a car or who owned it, but I could see 2 million cars, where they were, what they were doing, and all their wear characteristics. What is worn, because you can see everything these cars have done. So you can see what is likely wearing. You can do preventative maintenance. And this happens, and sometimes for free. A Tesla car will pull up next to your Tesla wherever it's parked, and they will say, may I change this part for you? It's typically while you're charging, because you're sitting there for maybe 20 minutes anyway. And they'll say, may I change this part for you? And they'll pop it out and pop in another one. And truly, they pop in and pop out. The cars are like they're made out of Legos. You can switch in a parking lot, most of the parts. So you don't have a failure. Okay. Well, Tesla measures rate of accidents, whether it's just the paint is scratched or it's a bad accident. Tesla measures all of those. And they measure, did that accident happen while a human was driving or the car was on autopilot with a human assist? And the % of accidents that happen per kilometer driven by a human driver is compared in real time to autopilot. And that's what real time creates this graph. And anyone in the company can see it at all times. The point I wanted to make is what this graph is, what this value is, changes depending on the stage of the system. At first it was, can the car navigate inside the factory? And you have a ramp up of where in the factory can the car successfully navigate. Then that value is achieved. The next value is, can the car keep its lane anywhere on planet Earth? And that's yes, no. So that's a red light, green light. Then, okay, how many kilometers of Earth can the car keep its lane? So the values change depending on the life cycle of the project. Again, you don't need any manager to tell you it'd be good if you could make autopilot safer, right? You can see that's the value. So you immediately, if you have an idea, you would just try it. Yeah. The last piece I would like to talk about is how onboarding works, how new employees are oriented in Tesla. When I joined Tesla, the total onboarding was 4 hours total. People talk about this amazing agile culture in Tesla, and there is. I've never seen an agile culture as effective as inside a Musk company. I also collaborated with SpaceX, and I've never seen an agile culture as advanced and effective as in a Musk company. And it comes from only 4 hours of orientation. Those must be some pretty special 4 hours. Okay, I'd like to show it to you. I'd like to show you what happens in those 4 hours of onboarding. As soon as you exit that onboarding, there's 110,000 employees working that way. And I think that's why the training can be so short. For companies that are new to Agile methods or don't have Agile like this, I do think they probably need 2 to 10 days of training for every employee, for every staff, and then they need Agile coaches. I do think Agile coaches are awesome, and I think a lot of companies need it. But once you have cultural inertia, once everyone is working this way, maybe you don't even need Agile coaches anymore. In my onboarding, my new hire orientation, we read the Anti-Handbook handbook. It's 4 pages long, and that set the culture. Then every interaction after reinforced the culture. Now, these 4 pages have been leaked online by a former Tesla employee. Not me, it was somebody else, on scribd.com. The URL is here. You can take a picture of this right now if you want to, or a screen capture. Tesla has never taken it down. This is not allowed. Tesla did not give permission for this document to be published, but they have made no move to take it down. Because of that, I won't show the document directly. I also don't have permission, but I will say, here's where it is, and Tesla's make no move to take it down. What I will do is I'll summarize it. It's 4 pages long. It's 16 items. And here's what they are. The first one says high standards. And it says, if you're the type of person that asks your manager what the standards are, you won't last in Tesla. We don't mean to be not polite. That's just the way it is. We need you to figure out what high standards are possible and execute towards them on your own. Then it says trust. It says everyone is going to trust you, and you're going to need to trust everyone. Walk up to everyone and anyone as if they are acting with good intent. It says communication. You're not going to get any. There's no manager. There's no one to ask. Your job is to look to wherever you think that the bottleneck is and try to learn how to improve it. That is your entire job. And if you need to talk to someone to do it immediately. You can talk to your boss. You can talk to your boss's boss. You can talk to Elon Musk. If anyone tries to stop you from talking to someone else, they will be fired. Now, what's funny is there is really no boss. There is really no boss's boss. But the Anti-Handbook handbook does talk about a manager and your manager's manager, just in case you thought there would be. But the point here is you can talk to anyone, and you can walk right up to Elon Musk and say, I think we should do this. If you think that's the fastest way to solve the bottleneck, it is your duty to do that. And the handbook tells you that right away. And then every employee interaction afterwards reinforces that. Job duties. It says, no one knows what your job duties are going to be in 10 minutes. This is a constantly evolving situation. Look at the boards, the monitors all around, and look at the apps on your phone to learn where the bottleneck might be and go try to help it. And no one knows what that's going to be tomorrow. So no matter what you were hired to do, once you're in Tesla, you are an employee, period. You are an employee, and you try to help. If the bottleneck is Python programming and you came in as a welder, if you can, you would try to start learning Python. Or if you came in as a Python programmer and the bottleneck was welding, you would try to start learning great welding. Okay, goals and feedback. There aren't any. You will work in a vacuum. You will work in teams and you will cheer for each other and you will support each other, but you can't wait for goals or feedback. It's not going to come. You have to be a self-starter. Safety. Safety is non-negotiable. You can't do something not safe. If you intentionally do something not safe, you will be fired. If you accidentally do something not safe, you'll be lovingly supported, educated, trained. Everyone's going to help you. Please don't do anything not safe. If you do something that endangers other people intentionally, you're gone. You're fired immediately. If you do something unsafe accidentally, you're going to be supported and trained. Safety is non-negotiable. You have to be safe. Attendance, take vacation, take as much vacation as you want and can. That's why it's there. If you're late, let us know why. We will try to be reasonable if you're reasonable. But if you're always late, that means your team can't count on you, and that might slow them down, and that might slow down the pace of innovation, and we will have to find someone else. Your team has to count on you. But if you're late sometimes, tell us why. If you're reasonable, we'll be reasonable. The culture in general is actually incredibly forgiving, incredibly elastic and welcoming. Sick days. If you're sick, please stay home. So I was working at Tesla during COVID. So we had like suits, like Tyvek suits, not like, they were Tyvek suits, and then masks, and then eye protection, and then face shields, and then gloves, and sometimes another layer of gloves over that. Because this was the early days of COVID when we didn't know what it was. So we're like, we don't know how it spreads. So we're walking around like we're in radiation suits. So yeah, anyway, they're like, if you're sick, stay home, and let your team know so your teams can do the best they can. And now you can choose your team at any time, but let the team you worked with last know, because they might be at least looking for you. Vacation, please take vacation. If you ever don't show up for work and don't tell anyone, you better have a really good reason. If you don't, we will think you're a jerk. Your team can't count on jerks. If you're a jerk, we will fire you. So if you miss work and you have a good reason, that's totally fine. Maybe you got in a car accident. Maybe you had a baby. Like, that's awesome. But if you don't have a really good reason, you're a jerk, and jerks have no place in this company. You will be let go immediately. Now, some people say in Germany, you can't just let people go. You can't just fire people. And Giga Bradenberg uses the same handbook, the same anti-handbook handbook. Well, here's what I have learned is that's based on how many years you've been employed. And in your first 3 years of employment, it's considered like a trial and you can be eliminated. Now, Giga Bradenberg is less than 3 years old. So that means everybody is subject to this. Now, what happens in 5 years is then you have to have certain levels of reasons, and it gets more difficult the number of years you're in the company. Once you've been in a company 15 years, you have to have a large set of proceedings to eliminate someone. So we'll see if the anti-handbook can last for 15 years. I don't know. We'll find out. Right now it can, because Giga Bradenberg is less than 3 years old. We'll see. Outside employment. Outside employment is expressly allowed, even encouraged. You can work for any other company. You can start a startup. You can even work for a competitor. That's fine. But you're held to the same standards as anyone else. So if you have a startup at night and then you come in the morning and you're tired, you'll be held to the same standard as anyone else. You won't get extra accommodation because you have another job. But outside employment is expressly allowed. So what I did when I worked in Tesla is I taught Agile Hardware Developer classes when I wasn't working for Tesla, and that was encouraged. Elon Musk encourages how Tesla works to be taught, which is awesome. This is like the core competitive advantage of the company. Does anyone remember, I think it was in 2016, when Elon Musk open sourced all the patents for Tesla? They said, here's how we make batteries. Here's how we're working on autopilot. Here's all our patents. We're putting them into open source. And what Elon Musk said is what we need is millions more electric cars. And it doesn't matter if they're made by BMW or Ford or Tesla. We need millions more electric cars. Musk truly seems, and I think it's true, to be operating in terms of how do we help the environment? And it just so happens to be making tons of money. The Musk companies are worth more than any other company that competes in the same space by an order of magnitude. Even today, Tesla stock is relatively down. Tesla is worth as much as the next 10 automotive companies added together. And this is on a low stock day. And Elon does this by open sourcing patents and saying, here's the way we work inside, and I'm allowed to teach it online. Like, this is weird. This is not how most companies operate. The radical transparency that a lot of us Agilists like seems to actually be part of the work culture of the Musk companies. You're encouraged to work for another company. Stupid stuff. The handbook says, we're not going to list all the stupid things that you could do. But we will say, if you do something stupid and you did it on purpose and it wasn't safe, you will be fired immediately. There is no tolerance for stupid stuff. If you do something stupid accidentally, we're going to help you. We're going to show you that was stupid. Here's how to avoid doing that again. If you're someone who does a lot of stupid things, even accidentally, you're a risk and we'll still have to let you go, even if you didn't do it on purpose. But if you do a lot of stupid things for a long time, we're going to have to let you go anyway. We're going to have to fire you anyway. We'll help you find another job. We'll help you update your resume, but we will let you go from the company. If you do stupid stuff on purpose, especially if it's not safe, you're eliminated immediately. Fun. If there's anything you can do that increases the level of fun in your work that doesn't reduce the quality of your work, do it immediately. Now, this is really stressed. You are pushed to have as much fun as you can. I'll give an example. In SpaceX, they thought it would be fun to build a bar, an alcohol-serving bar, on the top of the rocket launch tower. Not just any bar, a tiki bar with wood-carved masks and palm trees and everything. So they did. They built a tiki bar on top of the SpaceX launch tower at Starbase. That's the kind of company this is. I think a lot of you went to or saw, at least online, the opening of Giga Bradenburg. It was a rave party with 10-meter tall inflatable balloon puppets, lasers, and smoke. Like, that is encouraged. Work is supposed to feel like a party, and not just any party, like the best party you've ever been to. So if you can increase the level of fun without reducing the quality of your work, do it right now. And that is pushed. Like, work should be a party place. As long as it's effective and safe, it should be a party place. So you get all kinds of, what examples can I give better than the bar on the SpaceX tower? Okay, that's a really good one. Moral of the story. You're gonna work 12-hour shifts. Sometimes you're gonna work 100 hours a week, and you're probably gonna love it. You're probably gonna learn more than you ever have. Hopefully you make a difference in the history of the environment and humankind, and hopefully you help make life multiplanetary. It's going to be intense. You have no manager. You're going to have to self-manage. Apps on your phone are going to be the closest thing to a manager you have. Have a lot of fun. Then the last section says resolving concerns. You have human resources to help you. Tesla does have human resources. In fact, they have 2 human resources departments, and they have email, instant message, and you can visit them in person. By the way, in practice, there's almost no email in the Musk companies. Most people don't even know what their email address is. Almost all communication is through iMessage, just straight up Apple iMessage in the whole company. And also Signal. So Android users are super welcome. They use Signal, and also the iPhone users also use Signal, or some people can use other types of phones too, but they use Signal, which is an encrypted chat service. The reason why is if you're physically loading robots, or if you're in CAD and 3D designing parts as part of a mob, changing screen or opening up your laptop to check email breaks your context. It disrupts your thinking. Whereas looking at your phone and sending a message is less of a context switch. That's why. So Elon messages everyone. Yeah, Elon will send an email every once in a while, but it's almost all message. So you can message HR anytime, you can email HR, and you can go to HR, and there's 2 HRs. So those human resources, or Agile people operations is a more appropriate term. And they'll help you with whatever concern you might be experiencing. Like you say, I really think I need a manager. I need to know what my goals are. They'll say, okay, relax. Here's the app. Here's how you use it. They'll talk you through it. Okay, with that, I would really like to have an interactive session in our remaining time, if anyone would like.
Nice, Joe. Thank you so much. I think a lot of us have seen insights here that are very contrary to what we've experienced in the companies that we are working at in the moment. And yeah, we got some questions actually from our Q&A. So make sure to also add new questions there or vote other questions. And the first one I think is really interesting because you've already said like, hey, you need to be a self-starter if you want to start a Tesla, right? But if you are a company and you've been advising so many companies where you have people with different mindsets, do you think you can involve every employee in such a transition, or is there also people that you would have to sort out in a way?
Awesome point. Awesome point. The Musk companies are very mission driven. And if someone believes in the mission, they think it's worth switching to sustainable energy, right? If someone believes that, that is all that is required, I believe. The rest of the culture, all of this Agile culture, I think becomes necessary if you're passionate about a mission. Now, not everyone has to be passionate. Some people are near retirement and they're passionate about their grandkids or learning to play the piano or painting or cooking. That's okay. Those are awesome people and they should have really productive, healthy, happy lives. And they're not that passionate about the company's mission anymore. In that case, there's probably a different working style that is more appropriate for them. And they, I think, should have wonderful employment and continue to contribute, even if this work style isn't their favorite. Now, for that reason, I'm currently developing the best I can how to be as fast as the Musk companies in a way that people with severe disability or people with low energy or people close to retirement or people working very part-time could participate, because the Musk companies are very all in and it's effective. It really works. Okay, how can you get 80% of that value with 20% of that intensity is what I'm trying to develop now. Right now, I playfully call it #luxury stoic. Stoic being doing the right thing even when it's hard. Luxury, doing something nice just because it's nice. So luxury stoic is trying to get 80% of the intensity of the Musk companies while outputting 20% of the intensity. I'm hoping for especially retirees or super young people like kids that they can play in this way and be productive. But anyway, I do think the culture can apply to anyone if they're passionate about the mission, regardless of age. I remember working very clearly with someone often. We happened to often choose the same projects. They were in their 70s and they were passionate about the mission. They had incredible intensity. They were also very healthy. They were also very fit, but they were more than 70 years old. So I think this can happen even to people that are past traditional retirement ages, for example.
Yeah, that sounds like a great program that could be relevant for many of us and many companies in Germany.
Yeah, that's right. So let's switch to the next one. How do you consider safety aspects in a 10-day development?
Yeah, okay. So we can't sell anything. We can't give a customer something that we don't have complete confidence meets all safety goals. And we can't legally give a customer something until it's legal to do so, which involves its own testing. So that means fundamentally, we can't develop anything faster than we can test it, completely test it to our satisfaction. I think Agilists understand this, and this is why automated testing, test-driven development, and DevOps with automated testing and automated deployment is so popular for Agilists. This is completely true in Tesla. You cannot ship a change to a customer faster than you've completely tested it for safety, which is why there's this incredible expense. It's a huge expense to develop this digital self-management to try to, in less than a second, completely, fully test a product. So some people have a mindset that the longer you test something, the safer it is. That's actually not true. It's the higher the quality of the test. And some things can be tested instantly, completely. Not everything, but many things can. So now the pressure is, can you reduce the time it takes to do a complete valid test?
Yeah. Great. Great. Let's switch to the next one. What do we have here? If you could name one factor for successful agile transformation, what would it be, the one factor?
Budgeting. I actually think budgeting is the limiting factor. If the company has a 1-year budget, how agile can you be? You learn that we should really be doing something different tomorrow. The money's locked in for a year. Now you have to be making presentations and politicking to earn interest in changing course. Now it's all about making presentations and not doing the work.
Yeah.
I actually think it's fundamentally the budget cycle. So if your company moves to quarterly budgets, still that's your maximum pace of innovation. That's way better than most companies, but you're not going to get anywhere near Elon Musk.
Wow. Thank you. Great. How do you solve the deadlock between the wish of management in calculating the PL in opposite to the agile mindset where costs and deliverables are more fluid? Wow. Yeah. Good question.
Wow. I love this one. Whoever this was, please tweet at me at Joe Justice. Let's be friends. This is phenomenal comment and question. Wow. And I love the way it's worded too, the deadlock between the wish of management in calculating the profit and loss. This is solved by doing it. How do I say that? If management wishes to have real-time P&L, but they can't see it, the best they can do is ask the accounting department for a report, and they get last quarter's financial results, and it takes the accounting department a week to produce that report. That's not what I'm talking about. What you'd need to do is launch, I'll say, a software project to attempt to make visible real-time accounting. I actually have a friend in Turkey. She also works in the United States. Her name is Yesem Taskor. And her specialty is in setting up real-time financing, real-time financial visibility for companies. And she puts it on apps on phones. So hopefully you have radical transparency and everybody can see it, but at least someone can see it, real-time finances. And that is a real project. It's non-trivial. She's a specialist in it. But actually solving that project, launching that project so you can see it. Then once you can see it, then management can decide what do they really want to do with that information. But until they can even get that information, they can't make the decision. Most companies, the best they can see are last quarter's financial results, and it takes a week of the accounting department's time to get that number. So they can't make real-time financial decisions. They don't have the information. So step one is create the ability to get the information, even though that project is hard.
Wow. Yeah. Great. So maybe we have just time for one more question. What hurdles do you see to implement agile hardware development in a non-agile company?
A lot of the time, there is still a management wish to maximize money withheld for management at the expense of the employee base. And it's very difficult to get the kind of passion that I'm talking about when you think you're working hard just to make someone else rich. One step is to have shared ownership, to have employee purchasable stock, which is what Tesla does. There's no promotions in Tesla. There's no reviews in Tesla. There's no managers in Tesla. What there is you get a discount on stock. You can buy it at less than the publicly traded price as an employee. So you automatically make money. You're encouraged to buy into the company, no matter how small or how big. That means when you're working hard for the company and the company value goes up, you make money. a lot of people I was working with in Tesla had more than $1 million already. And they continued working at Tesla because they liked it. I mean, they had the money to retire, but they liked it. And, you know, these people are any age. Some of them are 20 years old and they've got more than $1 million. And they say, but I like working here. That enables the culture. But if your company says, my job is to make the owner's family rich, like that's fundamentally demotivating. And you will likely not have this culture emerge.
That's right. Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much, Joe, for answering our questions. That was so great to have you here. It's, yeah, thank you for that. And I think you have a lot more followers right now. So
let's call them friends. Let's call them friends.
Let's call them friends. Yeah.
Now, it looked like
so
there were
much.
maybe 19 questions left in the Menti, I think.
Yeah,
I think
that's right. That's right.
I will request that any remaining comments and questions be tweeted with the hashtag for this event, with, with the hinterland of things, and then to @me.
Yeah.
And sometime in the next 24, 48 hours, I will intend to reply to all of them. And that should help create even more awareness for the hinterland of things globally. And also it should get some more answers and responses to comments. Comments are also welcome too. I'm ready to learn. You can say, Joe, that was wrong. Okay, and that's good. Or questions too. And more can come too. If you were at this event, please continue to use the hashtags for this event so we can create awareness about the hinterland of things. And thank you so much. It is my honor to be here. If you're really passionate, there's the whole 16-hour class, the 12-step program, Agile Hardware Developer. That is how I make my money now. So you're invited. Otherwise, I do respond to Twitter. So I guess if it's tweet length or less, you can get it for free. Everybody, super thank you. It's my honor and pleasure to work with Jean and Miriam today and meet all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Have a good night and best wishes to Seattle. Hope to see you soon again. Thanks for the inspiration.
Have a good night. Thank you, Joe. Take care.
Cheers. Danke.